welcome back, and it's time now to the press for the press digest, and of course our usual Saturday morning guest, the prominent political analyst, Dr. Hala Enara. Good morning, Dr. Enara.
Good morning.
Let us first take from Al-Ahram, the front page. We read one of the main headlines: Egypt shall never forget its martyrs. The president gives his directives to the officers and soldiers of the armed forces to continue to develop their capabilities. The president performs Friday prayers at Field Marshal Tantawi Mosque on occasion of Martyrs' Day. Sisi says Egypt never forgets its martyrs who sacrificed their souls for the sake of the homeland. And also from Al-Akhbar we read a related banner. President in a meeting with commanders, officers and soldiers of the armed forces says, we intend to uproot terrorism. Al-Sisi tackles efforts of development and challenges facing the state. Al-Sisi performs Friday prayers at the mosque, also I guess Al-Masri Al-Yawm also is talking, Dr. Enara, about the same thing: a funeral for Al-Arish martyrs in Alexandria and Monofia, and security chases the killers, artillery shelling in the hideouts of the Takfiri elements, and citizens demand vengeance. Military funerals for two martyrs of Egypt and Alexandria and Monofia. Dr. Enara, how do you read this very important issue of terrorism and fighting terrorism after 5 years of effecting terrorist acts in Egypt and all over the world?
In fact, this is a continuing fight against an international coalition who are working. Many states are working against Egypt. Some of them, unfortunately, are Arab countries. They are providing these terrorists with arms, with intelligence, information, and with everything that can help them in their fight against the Egyptian army. But they cannot defeat the Egyptian army. That's why this fight is so long. They cannot defeat the Egyptian army. And they vanish, and then they come back with new supply of weapons, new supply of information, and new techniques that is not possible to be emanating from them. It's emanating from intelligence services that are keen to defeat Egypt, that are keen that Egypt never advances, never rises again. But Egypt is strong enough. Egypt can fight this terrorism. It's fighting terrorism better than the coalition of 68 countries that is fighting Daesh in Syria or in Iraq, in fact.
Right, and also given the fact that Egypt has taken the lead during those 5 years or 4 or so in rooting out terrorism from a huge part of the region, which is Egypt also. I mean, very, very small parts that are located in northern Sinai, the terrorist acts are being effected. Well, if we compare that to France, to Germany, to the United States, to other parts of the world and other Arab parts of the region, you can see that there are terrorist acts still affected.
Yes.
They have a problem.
The terrorists in Sinai are not necessarily settled in Sinai, but they come to Sinai through tunnels and through other countries' help. They come and they flee, and then they come back, and they get a great help. And the international community is lying all the time about fighting terrorism, because if they want to fight terrorism, they must try their resources. They must dry their resources. But where do they get money? Where do they get weapons? Where do they get training? Where do they get refuge? Who helps them? Everyone knows who helps them. Everyone knows who are helping them, not who are helping them. But they will not be successful in their many attempts to destroy Egypt, because Egypt has been fighting all over history. This is an army with a very, very long history of fighting, and it's a very strong army. It's not exaggerating if I say it's stronger than the armies of bigger countries in the region and in the whole world, because they have experience.
An army, armed forces with history.
Yes, they are experienced fighters.
Not just armed forces.
And they are not mercenaries. They are true fighters. They are fighting for their homeland, not getting money to fight.
Let's move on again back to Al-Ahram, and we read, international press celebrates Matariya archaeologist discovery. And German mission says the discovery of two statues took place in a scientific way. Archaeologists discovered massive statues in the slum. And of course, this was one of the banners that took a lot of debate and hassle among social network and among intellectual circles and media circles and more. Do you think that it really did, what was said about effecting some damage during the excavation was true? I mean, what came in the social media?
Damage to the statues themselves.
Exactly.
The head of the German expedition, who is working in cooperation with Egyptian archaeologists, said that it is normal. The statue comes in pieces. It was kept in pieces. It was not a whole, and they destroyed it. It was in pieces, and they are going to reassemble it. And he said that they followed the most advanced techniques in getting these statues out. But on social networks, we always have people talking about many things. They don't have true idea about what they are talking about. It's just someone says something and you find thousands of people commenting. But the talk of experts or the opinion of experts is what matters. If the head of the German expedition says that there were no damage, and Egyptian archaeologists cooperating with them said there were no damage, so there is no damage. And we must not ignore that if there is damage, this damage comes from the many people excavating who are not belonging to the state. Many people excavate and they try to get artifacts and monuments and sell them outside Egypt. That's why there is a lot of destruction. But it is not expected to come from professional expedition work.
Exactly. And instead of creating a lot of hassle around official excavations over the monuments that are hidden here and there, they should be looking over the attempts of smuggling the monuments, and
Yes.
like you said, you kind of said, trying to put them, take them for trade. And
you may remember
profit.
that when building the high dam and moving temples, they had to cut these temples into pieces and reassemble them. They had to cut the statues and then reassemble them. It's not so difficult for professional people.
We move back again to Al-Ahram. The Economist says the Egyptian economy is on the right track, and 250 companies from Poland tackle the chances of investment in Egypt. And I guess another banner comes from Al-Akhbar that is related also to the latest economic booms that Egypt are witnessing right now as a result of the economic reform plan. Egypt witnesses strong economic growth in the upcoming period, according to a number of international economic organizations, and there is no plan to reduce the subsidies of food in the reform program, establishing the largest zone for pharmaceutical industries in Suez Canal cities. And let's first take the Egyptian economy in the right track. 250 companies are flocking into Egypt to be able to strike economic deals and agreements to be able to start investing in Egypt.
Yes. In fact, there are many chances in Egypt. There are many challenges. Anyone who comes to invest in Egypt will have a solid base because we have skilled labor. We have all the resources that may help anyone coming to work here. Just bring your money and bring your technology, and you can start immediately. It's the same that happened in China. What happened? They just brought money and technology. This was the first condition for them to come. They brought money and technology, and they found a lot of labor ready to work, and their country is helping them, training them, and doing everything to ease measures for investors. The only thing that is still lacking is the investment law. It's not still endorsed. It must be endorsed to make it more easy for investors to come and work in Egypt, because any country that starts to open its arms for the outside world and invite investors to come must make it easy for them. They must not go round and round to do their work. It must be in one place. It must be finished in one place and finished quickly and easily without any handicaps. For years now, we have been hearing about investment law, and it's not still endorsed. If it's endorsed, it will make it more easy, because there are many chances, and many countries in the world are willing to come. And investors buying Egyptian bonds means that they trust the Egyptian economy, but they need help. They need things to be more easy. Yes, easy regulations. They need easy regulations.
Right. And also about establishing the largest zone for pharmaceutical industries inside the Suez Canal. I mean, the Suez Canal is starting to flourish. I mean, all the plans that were set to be able to unfold space for that particular place in the logistical zone, and also the amount of different types of industries that are affected inside this logistical zone. How do you
The region has the basics for flourishing and for success. We only need this law. We only need the regulations that encourage people to come.
Are you with lifting more subsidies over food or any other commodities?
No.
If it
of
necessitates?
Course, no. It's very difficult for people.
I mean, this is not going to be possible, right?
It's very difficult because people stood behind this regime, and they helped, and they bore whatever the government had to do. They bore rising prices for oil, for electricity, for water, for food items, but they cannot stand more prices.
Of course. From Al-Ahram we read, a meeting of the International Coalition Against Daesh in Washington and Syrian army reached the Euphrates for the first time. From Al-Ahram also we read, Cairo condemns the terrorist explosion in Tikrit in Iraq, and Iraqi special forces pushed deeper into West Mosul. Now Daesh, is it that particular complicated militant group that it would request more than a couple of years and a coalition, a whole world coalition of superpowers to be able to stand up or counter their terrorism?
In fact, the West is not shy to say that this alliance contains 68 countries, and they are not able to fight Daesh. In fact, the true fight of Daesh began when Russia came to the region. And this embarrassed the Western alliance.
Exactly.
And they had to fake, they had to pretend that they are working against Daesh. But who is dropping arms by mistake to Daesh? Who is providing safe corridor for them? Who is providing them a lifeline? It's the West, in fact. They must stop that.
But do you think this kind of political conflict is going to develop into something different once President Donald Trump comes into office? I mean, he already came into office and he took over. Do you think this is going to change in the near future into something else? It's going to be a real counter of terrorism?
In fact, what he says is different from what President Obama said, because President Obama divided terrorists into good terrorists and bad terrorists.
Modern opposition.
Good
Moderate
and bad.
opposition.
These are good terrorists and these are bad terrorists. And there is nothing called a good terrorist. A terrorist is a terrorist. So the United States chose some of the terrorists to be its hand in the region. And it helped them. It provided them with arms and with everything they need. That means it implanted terrorism in Syria and in Iraq. There were no Al-Qaeda or no Daesh in Iraq before the United States came to Iraq.
But how do you read President Donald Trump's assessment of terrorism inside the Middle East? Does it look credible to you? I mean, do you think that he is serious in countering terrorism with his plans? I mean, and all the promises that he has been striking in his presidential campaign. Do you think he's forthcoming with these promises, and he looks serious enough to be able to counter terrorism in a more different way than Obama did, the Obama administration?
He may be serious, but he's not ruling alone. The United States is a state of institution. There is the CIA, there is a Congress, there is the Defense Ministry, there is the arms industry, and there are many interests in the war. I once read in the American Armies magazine that whenever they have a new weapon, they must find the war to try this weapon. This is the American Armies magazine saying that. And of course, this war will not be on American lands. It must be on foreign lands. It will not be the land of their allies. It will be the land of weaker countries. So it's so easy to move their wars into the Middle East or any other place. Where is terrorism? It's in the Middle East and Asia. But recently, it moved into the West. And now they are beginning to suffer what they did, the results of what they did. It's in France, it's in Germany, it's in Europe, and they are beginning to be afraid of what's happening. But did you ever ask yourself why there is no terrorism in Israel, for example? Why there is no terrorist acts in the United States?
And the most important and most pressing question is that why terrorist acts are only targeting Islam and Muslims and not any other religion, and Arabs.
Yes, they are waiting for Israelis to convert into Islam, for example, so they start to fight them. It's very strange. That means who is planning for them? Who is moving them? Who is helping them? It's so clear. We cannot pretend to be not aware of anything. It's very clear for anyone.
Well, that's very important, very expressive note. Would like to thank you very much, Dr. Hala Enara, our prominent guest for every Saturday morning. Thank you for your time, ma'am, and coming over to the breakfast show.
You're welcome.
And I guess we're going to leave it here with the Press Digest, and we're going to go to a short break, and we'll come back to you, so stay with us.